Welcome back, everyone, inside the Journeyman Boxing Studios. This is another edition of Double Jab Radio. I'm your host, as always, Rich Quinones. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, RichQ. Check us out online, JourneymanBoxing.com. We always take you beyond the fight. You saw a lot of the updated New Jersey Golden Gloves photos, the videos, the content, the wrap-ups. And one of their champs is kind enough to join us, Leroy Davila, who is, you can argue right now, the best shot for the U.S. to win a gold medal in 2016, and he's kind enough to join us fresh off his Golden Gloves title. And Leroy, good to catch up with you. And first and foremost, I appreciate a couple moments of your time.
Oh, no problem.
Well, let's get into the Golden Gloves and your fight against a young, tough opponent in Dylan Price. And I really thought, just watching it ringside and broadcasting it, I said to myself going in, this kind of has the makings of kind of a man versus boy. And this is no disrespect to Price, who's a wonderful young boxer at 16, but you're 26, 27 years of age. You've been around the block. You know how the game's been played. And just what was your mindset going into this fight? Did you think he was going to pose that great of an issue for you, a problem for you?
No, I thought he was going to be a problem, but I didn't think he was going to keep putting the pressure on like he did. I thought my power would have, made him back up, which it made him back up some points in the fight, but at the same time, he kept coming forward. But, being that I've been around the block a couple times and, the experience that I had, I realized that my power was affecting him. That's why he was just coming forward. He wasn't coming forward any punches or no head movement down, and he just kept coming forward just with no punches.
I actually thought after the first round, you made a slight adjustment, and you can talk a little more about this. I thought you allowed him to get off one or two, but the problem was, from his standpoint, you were countering and you were landing 3, 4, and 5. So he would stop at 1 and 2, want to go back to the jab, back off, come back in. So it looked like you kind of, I don't want to say you baited him, but you allowed him to kind of sneak inside a little bit and then counter.
And I saw him especially when he was a little kid, when he was about 10 years old, I guess, when he started. He does the same thing over and over. He just keeps coming with a jab, but his jab is not hard enough. It just lets you know that he's there.
Yeah.
So after he throws a jab, there's not going to be nothing coming after the jab. So the first round, I was like, okay, he's just going to throw the jab, and if I make him throw the jab, and then I try to come in, he's just going to try to sidestep me and throw a right hand. And he did it every single time.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you saw the tell, and again, a couple of minutes with Leroy Davila. And again, this broadcast of Double Job Radio, courtesy of our good friends at GritToGlory.com. Check them out online, Grit to Glory. Rich Quinones in the Journeyman Boxing Studios. It's interesting because when you look at your career, and we'll talk about going forward, and obviously won Golden Gloves before, you've had national acclaim and awards, USA Boxing. Do you find yourself, though, at your age at somewhat of a crossroads, because the Olympics is right on the table? It's right there in 2016 in Brazil, but yet you probably at this stage of the game have the aspirations of turning pro. And I guess the question is, where do you see yourself? Are you kind of torn between that? Is your first goal, first and foremost, to represent the U.S. in the Olympics, and then if pro is an option afterwards, then so be it?
That's actually my only goal. My only goal is to represent the United States in the Olympics. I don't really want to go pro or anything like that. I just want to, after boxing, I want to have life after boxing. I don't want to keep on. I don't really like the whole fact of being away and stuff like that. I want to be a normal person. I want to burn my life as far as, branch off of boxing. Maybe do something more than a mile, or maybe try to do something handstand. But my main goal is to help kids, to reach out to kids, the younger generation.
I think that's great, and it's commendable. I want to go back to something you said about the weight issue. Do you think at this stage of the game, again, because of where you're at age-wise, it would be hard? I mean, what you got to find yourself in if you were to turn to pro. Let's just go on that premise, even though you said you have no aspirations. But I'm wondering if the fact is, hey, you got to find the appropriate weight class for you. And it's harder sometimes when you go up in weight, and then as you get older to start cutting weight. And I mean, look, we've seen great amateur fighters. We've seen gold medal Olympians have great amateur careers. Some had good pro careers, others haven't. And, we've seen it over the last 20, 30 plus years. So I'm just wondering, when you talk about that weight issue and maybe the concern there, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm an 85 too, and I would have to fight that because there's really no interest as far as the fans or, the boxing level as far as 108 pounds or, even 115, it's not really that much going on in that weight class.
Yeah.
Everything starts from like 118 on up. I'm a big guy too. I'll be fighting people like 5'7", 5'8". It's just pointless to me. Like everybody else.
You'd have to be climbing a ladder a lot. You'd have to be climbing. But I'll tell you, I do appreciate your honesty. Let's talk a little bit about 2016 and preparation for that. I mean, talk a little bit about your mindset now going forward. What do you have planned on the amateur ranks with training going forward? And talk about 2016 and that goal of representing the U.S.
Yeah. First, I gotta get through this. We have a qualifier for the Olympic trials in June next month. So, I gotta qualify for the trials first because I had surgery last year, so I missed the first qualifier. I would have definitely qualified, but now I'm coming off surgery. I've been out for a year. Got Dylan Price was my first fight back, so now I just gotta get everything in order. Now I gotta start building my training back up. But I wasn't really training for that fight either. Everything just, came so fast, and I thought I had a lot of time, but time just went so fast. So now I just gotta get prepared.
That was talk a little bit about that injury, and I know coming back, that was your first time fighting in Jersey in the last several years. But how about that injury and how you were able to work through it?
I worked through the injury with prayer. That's all I really did was pray. I trained as hard as I could. I mean, using my arms, I couldn't train as hard as everybody else, but I had good legs.
Yeah.
When we were in training camps in Colorado, we was doing like races and everything. I always come in first place. Always come in first. I always train harder than everybody else as far as my legs. And with my arms, I can only do but so much. When I was sparring, I was only using one arm sparring. So, a lot of people had bigger advantages, but, I did what I had to do. And I got through it a couple of years. Went to a rotator cuff. Doctors told me I wasn't supposed to be fighting, and I just kept fighting. I just kept pushing forward, kept training hard, kept my prayers, and God just stayed blessing me.
That's a tough injury, certainly, to come back to, especially when you depend on using your hands and throwing that jab. But you're right, you can do a lot more damage at times, too, defensively. If you just move around, you don't get hit. We saw that over the weekend with Mayweather and Pacquiao. Let me get your thoughts on a couple things. Now, I want you to take your mind away from being a boxer, objectively speaking. I know some people thought Pacquiao won the fight. I didn't think Manny Pacquiao won the fight, regardless of what I think of Floyd Mayweather as a person. It doesn't matter because I watched that fight looking at him as a boxer. And ultimately, if you follow boxing, and I'm speaking to the audience right now, you know exactly what Mayweather is going to do, especially in championship fights. And that's just what he does. And it doesn't mean it's a boring, ugly fight to watch. That's Floyd. He's got the defense. He's going to slip. He's going to slide. He's going to shoulder roll. He's going to stay off the ropes here and there. He's going to move around. He's going to dance. And he's going to usually win the fight on the scorecard with the points. The question I want to ask you is, A, did you think that fight lived up to the hype? And B, do you think it was a lot closer than the scoring?
We can say 50-50. It didn't live up to the hype far as with the crowd and what Pacquiao's fans thought it was going to live up to. But as Floyd fans, it lived up to the hype because we already knew that he was going to come up.
But you would agree, though, that that's not a fight fan's fight. I mean, let's be honest. That was not a fight fans fight, especially the way the tickets were, especially with all the build-up, all the celebs in the audience. I mean, there's no blue-collar person in the world that really could have sat and watched that fight live, and the people that paid $100 are pretty ticked off.
Yeah, they are, only because they set their own expectations high.
Yeah.
They thought, mostly, 80% of America thought Floyd was going to get knocked out. So they were ready to see it, but because he didn't get knocked out, or because he didn't get staggered, or because it wasn't difficult for him, they're mad at him. But, all 47 of his fights, he fought the same exact way. He stuck to his own game plan. He slowed the pace down.
Yeah, and I think
Pacquiao was an exciting fighter.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people also they wanted to see Floyd get knocked out. The novice fan just goes on his personality on face value, and they don't get the fight game. The one moment, and I don't know if the shoulder injury came into play. I don't know, and it's easier said to watch the fight again. And if Manny was hurt, then a lot of people believe he shouldn't have been fighting. I understand all the money that was on the table, but I still think you're doing a disservice to the fans in the sport. That aside, there was a moment or two where it looked like he had a couple good combinations, a little bit of a flurry, and for some reason when he had Mayweather up against the ropes, it was almost as though he stepped back to create distance when he was right in that kill zone. And I thought, look, I didn't think the fight was going to change hands at that moment, but that particular moment to me was a little bit of a defining moment in that fight, because it made you say to yourself, if that's the best man he has, then Floyd's easily going to come away with the win.
In the recent Pacquiao fight, he's been getting tired.
Yep.
He's having leg cramps. Everybody knows that Floyd doesn't gas out.
Yeah.
So if you keep on throwing punches like that, and you're not really connecting, you're just throwing, you're wasting energy. Now in your mind, you're focused on the later rounds. Man, what if I get tired? This guy the counterfight, if he doesn't get tired, what if I gas out? What if my legs start cramping up? Let me back off just a little bit.
Yeah, we've seen it before. I mean, we've seen it in heavyweight championships. I remember years ago, Chaz Weatherspoon, his legs got tired, I think, in the second or third round against Mitchell, and he wound up getting knocked out. So it happens. Hey, listen, two more quickies before I let you get out of here. Again, give us a rundown of what you have coming up in June as far as from an Olympic standpoint. And then, as always, I always have the guest, if they're doing anything with social media, if they want to promote anything they're doing, they're working on, you can certainly do that.
I got this. I want to try qualifier June 20th to the 27th. I'm just trying to stay in shape, stay training, keep my career going. Allow God to bless me and just, keep everything open. And, if you want to contact me or reach me, you can get me on Instagram, Leroy Davila, or Twitter, Leroy Davila, and Facebook, Leroy Davila.
He's got the guapo chico there. He's got the handsome photos out there. He said he's gonna be a model of the boxing thing if the amateur stuff doesn't work out. Hey, Leroy, always a pleasure. Enjoyed watching you during the Golden Gloves, and the best of luck. I know we'll talk before June, but I appreciate a couple moments on this edition of Double Job Radio.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate the call.
All right, be well, Leroy.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, there you have it. You heard it first here on this edition of Double Job Radio inside the Journeyman Boxing Studios. Leroy Davila, a very, very good amateur fighter, won so many awards over the years as far as Amateur of the Year and Golden Gloves and New Jersey Boxer of the Year in the AMI ranks, and really, I believe, one of the, I guess you can say, dark horses to win a gold medal, if in fact he has an opportunity to get on the U.S. Olympic team. I think he's going to do some serious damage, and I thought he brought up a great point. 26, 27 years of age, a $108 and 5'2". Not a market place for a pro boxer, and he's got a good head on his shoulders and really dictated that fight against Price throughout. So we appreciate Leroy jumping on board for a couple moments. And as always, don't forget this edition of Double Jab Radio, courtesy of our good friends from Grit to Glory. Check them out online. That's grit, the number 2, glory.com for all your inspirational t-shirts and merchandise. Grit, the number 2, glory.com. Check them out online, one of the official and proud sponsors of Double Jab Radio. All right, folks, don't forget, good East Coast boxing action on this Friday night. Amir Mansour taking on Joey Dwechko in Philadelphia. Quite frankly, I don't even think that's going to be a contest. I think Amir Mansour is out to make a statement. You can check out the preview online, journeymanboxing.com, as we start to wrap up another edition of Journeyman Boxing Live from the Journeyman Boxing Studios is in the books. And again, special thanks to Leroy Davila for jumping on board. Sunday show, we'll talk a little female boxing with Naomi Boskies. She's set to take on Heather Hardy on the undercard of Amir Khan, Chris Algieri. So we'll get her thoughts on the upcoming bout against Heather the Heat Hardy. As always, everyone have a good Friday night, and another edition of Double Jab Radio in the books, especially to our friends in Spain and Latin America listening to us online at journeymanboxing.com. Oh, mercy para nosotros, amigos que nos escuchan en España y América Latina. Gracias por tu tiempo. And as always, follow me on Twitter, RichQ on Q, as well as our photographer, Sheree Shagogi, S. Shagogi. And also check out the updated content page on our JMB TV boxing channel. You can just Google Rich Quinones and you can see all the updated content from the New Jersey Golden Gloves. Do not forget, Saturday we'll be in Atlantic City, the AC PAL, their best of the best. We'll have exclusive broadcast rights to that show as well, and some content that we will post later on in the week. And as always, thanks for joining us. Remember, it is not the destination but the journey you should enjoy. As always, we